Hi everybody, thanks for joining. I've been watching YouTube videos for a whole bunch of years and finally decided I think I can do that. And at the same time answer the number one question in my house. Dad, what's for dinner? So tonight for dinner, we're going to do a double crusted chicken pot pie. Ingredients are pretty simple here. Half of a sweet onion that I cut up, about a cup of carrots, half a cup of flour, a stick of butter, 2 tablespoons of oil, about 3/4 of a cup of celery, 3 cups of chicken broth, and 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream. And then I've got some shredded chicken from a couple chicken breasts that we did up. We'll throw that in. It's really made in 2 stages. The first is going to be using our pan here, and we're going to get the filling made. And then we're going to use just the store-bought pie crust here. We'll flatten them out a little bit to make them a little bigger. We'll put one in the bottom of the cast iron pan. We'll then put the topping in there. Then we'll use the other one to seal up the top, cut a couple slips in it, throw it in the oven at 375 for about an hour, and then dinner will be done. We'll have that answer. Dad, what's for dinner? Okay, so we're going to get this going first by adding our oil and our butter to a pan. Let that get melted down. Then we're going to add in our half cup of flour, and that's going to, then we're going to add our onion, our carrot, and our celery. Let that kind of saute in the butter for a little bit, get softened up. Then we'll add our half cup of flour. Mix that all around for about a minute, creating, a roux like we've done in a couple other recipes. Once that flour taste is baked out of the flour, then we'll slowly add our chicken stock and cream. And that'll kind of make the base of our pot pie mixture. So we'll go ahead and get that started. I like kind of taking my butter and breaking it down a little bit, just helps it melt a little faster. And we'll throw our oil in. And we'll just kind of let this go till we get it all melted down. I think I'm going to back off on my heat a little bit here. This is, with a stick of butter in it, this is definitely not the most heart healthy thing to have for dinner. But, here in southeastern Michigan, we had a lot of snow over the weekend. It's still super cold outside, so a meal like this tonight, just kind of do a soul good. Okay, so now that that's done, we'll go ahead, we'll add our finely diced onion, our carrot, and our celery. And we'll just kind of cook this 3-4 minutes until we get everything softened. And then we'll move on to the next step. I'll bring you back in a couple of minutes. Okay, we've had our carrots and celery and onions here sauteing for about 3 to 4 minutes. Everything's starting to soften up. So now we'll incorporate our half cup of flour. And then we'll just mix this all together. It should form a paste. And just like some of our other recipes, right, we're just basically making a roux. And that's going to act as the thickener to get that kind of thick gravy pot pie filling. And just like with any roux, the trick is to kind of get the flour in there, get it all hydrated with the butter and oil, and then let it cook for about a minute so you get that raw flour taste out of it. You can start to smell it a little bit too. It'll smell kind of nutty. And that's your key to start adding your liquids. And I think that looks pretty good there. Now, as we add our liquids, this is really going to tighten up, so you have to stir it constantly, and you want it to be nice and smooth. So I'm going to go in and add some of my chicken stock. We'll start to mix this in. See, and there you can see how it seized up. I'm going to add a little more chicken stock. And eventually, when we get enough liquid incorporated into this, it'll stay more like a gravy as opposed to being the paste that it is right now. Okay. And now I'm going to add some of my cream because I know I want all of this in my final product. So we'll go ahead and add that. Okay, we're still awfully thick. Let's go ahead and add some more chicken stock. There we go. That's going to get us there. And I think I'm going to add the rest of this chicken stock. As this comes back up to heat, that'll continue to thicken. So, I want it a little loose right now. And then once we get it heated back up, it'll thicken up again and give us that consistency we're looking for in the final product. So we'll give this just a minute. Now, the other thing I'm going to do to bulk this up is I'm going to add some potatoes, some peas, and some corn. These are just frozen vegetables, but they kind of add more sustenance to the meal here. And then after those are in, then we'll add our chicken in, and our filling will be done. And we'll just wait until we're ready to actually build the pie and cook it. This is looking really good. I'm going to check it right now also for my seasoning levels. And you never know how salty it's going to be when you add chicken stock, so I always wait until that's in, and then I'll add my other seasonings. Okay, that's there. I'm also going to add a little rosemary. This is just kind of a classic pot pie aromatic. Just a little bit, maybe a teaspoon there. Okay, now you can see the heat's coming back and this is thickening up again. So we'll just give it another minute. And then we'll start incorporating our frozen veg. So corn, and I just kind of eyeball this. I didn't really measure it. If I had to guess, it's probably a cup of corn, a cup of peas, maybe a cup and a half of the potatoes. You can put whatever veg you want in it. The recipe that I based this off of had mushrooms. My family's not a big fan of mushrooms, so I kind of avoid using them if they're not absolutely essential to the recipe. We'll get this in. And then we'll add our chicken in. I'm glad I held a little bit of the stock back. I'm going to use the rest of that. And that's pretty much it for the filling. I'm just going to kind of let this all heat and incorporate. And I'll bring you back when we're ready to do the final assembly and put this thing in the oven. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're at the point where we're ready to start prepping to build the pot pie. A couple of steps where we're going to do here. First, I'm going to grease my cast iron pan. Just using a little butter, we'll get that all around the edges and the bottom. That'll keep it from sticking. I've got my two just ready-made pie crusts. One's going to go on the bottom. One will go on the top. I'm going to stretch one of these out a little bit so we can get it up the sides. And then we'll just kind of ladle in our filling. We will put the top crust on. We'll seal everything off. And then we'll get it in the oven. We're preheating to 375 right now. Once we're all done and we put that in, it'll be about 45 to 55 minutes. We'll just keep an eye on it and we'll look to finish it up. So with that, let's get this cast iron buttered here. I've just got a little pad of softened butter. And just make sure you do the sides, the bottom. That'll keep it from sticking, and we'll be able to dish it out when we're done cooking. So, okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to set this to the side for right now, and we'll move forward. Whoops, that's sugar, not flour. Okay, now I got what we need here. I'm just going to put a little flour down. Get one of my pie crusts out. Now, I've had these sitting on the counter for 10-15 minutes, just trying to let them warm up a little bit. They tend to stretch a little easier when you do it that way. So we'll just kind of get that rolled out. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of flour on top as well. Okay, now what I want to do is just use my rolling pin, stretch this out a little bit, put this piece back together if we can. Also having this, thinner on the bottom because it's got to go through all of the, it's going to have all of the filling and stuff on it as well. Then I'll just lightly wrap that around my rolling pin. Bring this back. And then we'll just kind of work it into our dish here. You want to make it so you have a little bit of overlap at the top. This will help us seal everything together. Okay, and then I just kind of make sure I work it into the edges of the pan here. Okay, that piece is done. Now, I'm just going to ladle in my filling. I don't know that we'll use all of it, but we'll use a good portion of it. And what I don't use here, right, I could make smaller versions of this. So this leftover, I could probably make 2 little pies out of that maybe, and just throw those in the oven at a later date. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Okay. Now the other thing I'm going to do before I start sealing all this up, I'll make a quick egg wash. That's just 1 beaten egg, a little bit of water put in with it, and we'll use that to help seal the top to the bottom. And we'll also use it on the top so it browns up really nice. So give me just a minute to throw that together, and then we'll come back and finish this off. Okay, I've got my egg wash ready to go here. I'm going to grab my top crust. And again, I'm going to roll this out a little bit. I'm not going to do as much as I did on the bottom. I don't have as far to cover. But getting a little flour down on my work surface. Get that crust out there, and then just give it a little bit of love. Okay, that's ready to go. Now I'm going to use this egg wash and just go along the edges here. And this is going to help act kind of like a glue in this use of it, just to help that top and bottom get a good seal. Bring this one back, boop, loop it over. And now what I'm going to do is just kind of tuck the top underneath the bottom edge. Just to help get everything sealed up tight. And then I'll just do some kind of typical crimping. This edge we're a little shallow, but we'll make do. Get everything sealed off. Okay, and to me that's looking pretty good. Now the other thing you want to do is you want to cut a couple slits here in the top. This is going to help let steam out as it cooks. Doesn't have to be anything too extreme, but you can, get a little decorative with it too. Okay, that's done. Then just use my egg wash again. This will help give a nice crust on the top. Then I'm going to get this in the oven. I'm going to get it cooking. And after about 20 minutes, I'll probably check it. And especially you're going to want to check the edges. If they start to burn, then just put a little tin foil around the edge. You can also take a larger piece, kind of cut a circular shape out in the center and set that on top. That'll allow the pie to keep cooking and keep the edges from getting too burnt. Okay, there's that. Now, one other finishing touch that I like to do is I take a little bit of what they call Malden salt. This is just a really kind of big cube salt. It's like a finishing salt. I put a little bit on that top crust. Just gives a little pop of flavor and a little fancy. And that's all there is to it for right now. So I'm just going to kind of touch up a few places here. We'll pop this in the oven at 375. Like I said, after about 20 minutes, I'm going to check the edges. If I need to, I'll cover those up with tin foil. This will be done in about 45 to 55 minutes, and we'll bring you back and show you how it turned out. But, you know, really nothing too complicated here, right? A little bit of time to make our filling. Probably the hardest thing is getting the pie dough stretched out enough so that you can get it in your bottom of your crust and fill it. But the rest of it's easy. So don't be intimidated by this one. Go ahead and give it a try. We'll bring you back when this is done cooking. Okay, here we are, 55 minutes later. Just pulled everything out of the oven. And there we go. Look at that. Homemade chicken pot pie. As you saw, not much to it. Pretty easy. Don't be intimidated by this one. Anybody can do it. And that's how I answer the question, Dad, what's for dinner? Thanks. We'll see you next time.